Hi, I'm Jan Forsty, class of, well, we'll say 1987 when I first came to Bethany. You're watching Dingo Talk.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk, and I have a very special guest today. She graduated from Slippery Rock College in 1975. She has 767 career wins in softball. And in 1985, she was the first female collegiate athletic director. I'm obviously talking about Jan Forsty, the softball coach, soccer coach, volleyball, tennis, and field hockey coach here at Bethany College. And Coach is going to tell us everything from 1975 all the way until retirement and what she's doing now. So it's not my job to tell Coach a story, and we're going to let Coach tell it. So, Coach Forsty.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk, and special guest, Coach Jan Forsty. Coach, thank you for being here with us.
Very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
For those of you that don't know, I had Coach Cunningham on, and that runs the soccer side of the athletic history here at Bethany. And if there's a sport that this lady next to me didn't coach, we'll have to find it during this interview, because as I was looking through and as I remember, tennis, soccer, field hockey, volleyball, softball.
Yep.
That's all of them?
At Bethany.
Okay. So there are more, it's just not.
Yes.
We're going to start this in 1971, leaving Franklin Regional High School.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to go to Slippery Rock?
Well, I went up and saw a basketball game my senior year. I had just started basketball. It was right after Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
I went up and saw a basketball game there, and I was just mesmerized on how good the women played. And I said, I got to go there.
Okay.
And I wanted to play basketball. So, because I played 3 years at Franklin Regional with basketball. We played 1 year of tennis and 1 year of softball, because that's the only sports they had. So I decided to go to Slippery Rock, and a very gutsy move in the 1970s for me. I only applied to one college.
And that was, you were set on it. That was where you were going.
If I wasn't going there, I wasn't going to college. Now, I got accepted in, back then, what was referred to as a summer jam, which meant I didn't quite make the cut to get in regular.
Okay.
So I had to go to summer school.
Up there?
Yes, at Slippery Rock. Miss the fall semester, and they come back in January.
Okay, so they gave you a semester in the summer to get adapted. You're not officially accepted yet, and then when the second semester,
we were accepted.
And then you take your break, and then second semester,
Yes.
You're into it.
Yes, and right before school started, I must have been at the top of the list. They called and said, you can come in September. So I became a normal student then. So,
and always towards the phys ed area and coaching?
Yes, yeah, my goal all through high school was to teach physical education and coach. So that's what I wanted to do.
So you brought up the Title IX, and you and I had a conversation way back there in the archives. Somebody could go and find it in the library if they wanted to. It's a lot different now than it was when you were going through as a student and as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the biggest differences, since you as a coach dealt as a player back when the Title IX was just being developed and being implemented, and what it is now?
I have said in my classes and some other conversation, you can divide my life into 3 segments: pre-Title IX, Title IX, post-Title IX. And I'm obviously in post, but pre was high school, only basketball, and in the beginning, 6 women on the court at a time, as opposed to 5-on-5. Just started softball, just started tennis. We just didn't have a lot of opportunity. I got to Slippery Rock. Here it is, one of the best physical education schools in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They had volleyball, tennis, basketball, and track. That was it. 4 sports. Went out for basketball. As I said, that was my big sport I wanted to play. There were 124 women who went out for the team tryouts, because there was no recruiting. That's just who came on campus and wanted to play. I made it down to the last 24. And I was one of the last 2 cut, because Dr. Ann Griffith said, don't need guards this year. so So
So that was the end of that.
yeah, so I lost out on that. It sent me into a slight depression because that's all I wanted to do was play basketball. So I relate a lot to the students today of, their identity being tied to a sport.
Mm-hmm.
I had to break that mold and then adapt to, I want to be the best physical education teacher I can. And I had fun playing tennis. I mean, I was very good at it,
But you had fun and enjoyed it. And
as opposed to the stress of basketball. And then I helped to form the softball team with Jan Kasimich, that became the coach. We started that my
So
senior year.
this is going to be a trend too of you kind of developing softball programs.
It is. It is.
So you graduate in 1975.
Yep.
And then what is the next step? Because you have your master's. Do you go,
Nope, don't have my master's yet.
or no, you have your undergrad. So you leave and go to teach at a high school.
Chartiers Houston High School over in Houston, PA, south part of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I ever wanted to do was to do that, coach. And at that time I was volleyball, 9th grade basketball, and softball coach. Got my basketball coaching in there. I started teaching physical education and I got bored. The curriculum back then was I would teach volleyball, I would teach the serve for 6 classes on Monday, 6 classes Tuesday, 3 classes Wednesday. Then Wednesday afternoon I got to teach something else. It was boring.
Very
to me.
repetitive and very just not.
Yes. So I thought, well, I'm going back to get my master's so I can teach teachers to teach better. I didn't go into the teaching side, I went more in the sport management side.
So that's what your master's is in, is sports
yes,
management.
I went back to Slippery Rock for 2 years, was an assistant softball coach with Jan Kasimich, and then I got hired down at Wheeling College.
Well, the interesting point for those that are watching and that are familiar with Slippery Rock, when you got there and got your bachelor's degree, the bachelor's degree comes from Slippery Rock State College.
Yes.
And when you get your master's from there, it comes from Slippery Rock State University.
Yeah.
Now, was there a drastic difference from when you left from your undergrad to then going back?
Not really. There was only 4 years. Now I can tell you I went back up for the softball alumni game this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Big difference up there.
They said we're going to meet at the ski lodge after the game for dinner, and I went, okay, where's the ski lodge? I remember it's back over on that field all by itself. The enormous growth that Slippery Rock has had with just residents, dorm, well, they don't do dorms.
It's all
Kids
apartments
today,
and
all apartments, which needs more buildings because you could put a lot of kids in a dorm
Mhm.
as opposed to everybody wants their own room or 2 people to a room. The residence is just.
So when you get your master's and then you make your way down, you end up not in Brooke County, but in
No.
Ohio County.
Yeah.
What was the experience like there? Because that's also still at that point Wheeling College.
It was Wheeling College. President at the time, Father Curry, hired me. That's right when Title IX was starting to be implemented more into college. It was enacted in '72, but it takes time to do these kind of things. So Father Curry had hired me as coordinator of women's athletics. I was also the volleyball coach, assistant basketball coach, and softball coach. Intramurals also. So I mean, it was one of those like small colleges all around. You end up doing everything. So I eventually got out of the basketball. It was volleyball, softball only. The gentleman that was hired as the men's coordinator of athletics was Jim Hurlinger, who was a Slippery Rock grad, also a soccer guy.
So there's a nice little rock connection going on.
There was, which he helped, I helped the connection. After that, Jim left over a disputed rule thing that had happened, and Fred Lambert at the time turned around and went, well, we'll just appoint Jan as AD. He had no idea what he did.
Well, makes you the first
Yes.
AD, female AD in the state of West Virginia at the collegiate level.
Yes, yeah.
And that, for your part one of pre-Title IX, current or in Title IX, and then post in the current Title IX as it's picking up,
Yes.
that's going to be huge for that traction.
It is. It was a lot of development and things that I can remember, funny story on it is, I can remember doing a feasibility study they wanted to start football.
Mm-hmm.
I did that in 1987. When did they have their football program?
2018, I think, 2019.
Yeah.
We don't one of them. I know that field was there for a while, but
Well, that's how long it took.
and that's how long it took from your initial analysis to them getting to the point of it being feasible. Well, I'm just saying from.
I have no idea what happened after I left. I left in, let's see, I left Slippery Rock second time in 81, so I worked 81, 82 till August of 87 at Wheeling.
And then you make your way. Do you make your way up 88 to
Maybe.
come to?
Yep. Well, I lost my job at Wheeling. We won't go into that. I got fired. Knew that this position was open because I knew the coach and everything up here, so I just kind of waited my time. Came up, interviewed. They said, interviewed on Monday. They said, we'll let you know next week. We've got a few more interviews to go. And then they called me Wednesday and said, do you want the job? I said, I'll take it if you give me the same salary I had when I was at the other job. And that they did.
So now was that interview, that would have been with Bob Boyne?
Nope, Jim Zalaka.
So you meet with Jim, and what was your feel of what the female sports and programs were here at Bethany?
Well, I was being hired as a softball coach. Our softball field had grass.
I think Ev Del Cerro told a story about there might have been benches, but they weren't.
Well, they were 2x8s on cut off telephone poles. The backstop, I am not kidding you, was chicken wire. No outfield fence.
And in the same spot? No, not in the same spot because that was the baseball field.
No. That's the same spot when I came.
Okay.
It was the baseball field way before me. Yeah. So I said, well, I'll take. You get rid of the grass out of it because you're taking Division III athletes and putting them in the most difficult situation to field it on
A basic ground ball or anything.
anything. Yeah. So they cleaned it up. I can tell you, I've worked very, very hard in the last 31 years to make that field what it is. Cassie added some nice dirt recently, which we needed, but I had a lot of blisters, a lot of paint on me, a lot of negotiating with vendors. Guy Johnson, who built the rec center, donated our dugouts.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Miller put the fencing up, which was the cheapest fence I'd ever seen in my life. Literally one time.
Isn't there a story about that fence too? I believe it was put on the wrong backwards or in the wrong part of the.
And they didn't cap the top of it, so we had a bad windstorm one time, and it all comes from left center field. I look out my window, and it had taken the fence and picked it up the pole and dumped the fence, the chain link, in center field. And that was about that time. I was like, I think we need new fencing.
Yeah, it's probably
I
time.
had a game in 2 days. They did get it back on, but it was. We've put a lot of hard work, me and all of my women, to make it a very credible field. Through fundraising and, like I said, some donations from some people to make it the great field that it is.
And that's the thing, you point out your women. It's a thing that if you're not a Bethany student or an alumni, and you've never been over to the softball field or been an athlete practicing in the fall or in the spring, there's one thing you're guaranteed is if you look over to the softball field, there's the whole softball team and they're taking the rocks off the field and they're out weeding and it was your home. It was. And that was one of the things I always thought was cool about the program is that it was kind of like coming and buying a house and renovating it as a family and then seeing it at the end of the year what the now was that part of your.
It's my cathedral.
It is.
It's God's country to me. I can't tell you how many games I sat in the dugout after a game just with the serenity, or go early before all the hype gets going in the game and the teams and all that. Just to sit there and watch the deer walk by and it's very, very, very special to me. Very special.
Now, softball. We're going to come back to softball.
Okay.
But we have there's a couple other sports that we have to cover here at Bethany. And I brought up that interview that we had my senior year because it was interesting. It was you, Courtney Klein, or Courtney Hilliard now, and myself.
Mhm.
And we talked about how jerseys had changed and a lot of Title IX stuff. But one of the funny bloopers is that we talk about, I believe you have one of the first PAC titles for volleyball here, correct? Or a PAC run.
Not in volleyball. That's the one sport I did not win.
Soccer.
I won 3 in soccer, 1 in field hockey, and then
And
softball.
and then softball. So, what of those other sports that you've coached here at Bethany, which one holds is there one that holds a closer, or do they all kind of?
Well, I tell you, I really enjoyed soccer.
Mhm.
I can remember sitting in the cafeteria with Graham Ramsey, friend of JC's. I had taken classes in soccer, but I was not a soccer person.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. I can coach anything, but when it gets down to the finer details of the sport, I mean, I can get you in shape and I can mentally motivate you and all that other coach stuff, but I didn't understand all
The X's, the O's, the movements.
yeah, that, and do you kick the ball on the inside of your foot or the outside? I don't know. One thing I did know about soccer was I could recruit. I had tremendous recruits
Mhm.
that came into play, and JC helped a lot with that also. But I would sit with Graham and he would take salt shakers. He'd go, this is the offense, this is the defense, and he'd start moving them around on the table, and it was like, huh, now that makes sense.
When Coach Cunningham said the same thing, that he
Yes.
had, I believe, he had different coaches, and that was how, when he had a player that couldn't understand, that was the go-to, is that it would take him either to Bubba's or to the calf and physically show him.
Salt and pepper shakers,
Yes.
yes.
So let's get into the beginning of softball for you, the bulk of the softball coaching career here at Bethany.
Okay,
So the field slowly gets its upgrades.
yeah.
What do you remember from the early seasons?
Well, we didn't play as many games. Okay, I mean, we now are allowed to play 40 games. I can remember we were lucky to play 24 maybe, so it was a shorter season. Recruiting wasn't as serious. I mean, this is one of the reasons I got out of softball coaching, retired from coaching. I had a kid call me and say, Coach, I'm committing to you. And I went,
What?
what are you talking about? Well, I'm committing to Bethany and you. I'm coming to play ball. I said, well, why don't you just say that? So the lingo for Division I has started to settle down. And the early years here, it was simple.
Mhm.
You know, Mel West, Mel Stum West, one of my first big recruits out of North Allegheny. You know, I can remember sitting in my living room, calling her on the telephone. And she said, well, I play on the basketball team. I said, well, come up and watch you play. And I did. I watched her set the bench the whole time. Got to know her dad pretty well. But, you know, there was a real personal relationship in the recruiting in the early days. I don't want to say it wasn't as serious because it was still very serious for the women and I, but it wasn't taken as seriously. It took us a long time through the beginning to get the NCAA recognized us because we didn't have an automatic bid.
Okay.
You know, so we would have a season where we were like 26 and 11 and nobody looked at us. And we were good. But nobody heard of little Bethany in the little PAC out in West Virginia. You know, they were looking at the Ohio schools and,
Mhm.
you know, the other Division III, the big Division IIIs in Pennsylvania and stuff. So it took us a lot of hard work, you know, PR-wise, going to the national conventions, you know, networking on my part, getting on committees, you know, to get kids regional recognition. I was on the top 25 committee for a long time when you vote for, you know.
Which teams are?
Sure, and you represent your conference, but at the same time, you couldn't give a little extra push for Bethany, because I'm doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't never neglect anybody else that does deserve
Now,
some of it.
what happened? What was the turning point of getting the automatic bid? Because so you're saying that was not a guarantee for and was that across the board for the PAC? The PAC did not have an automatic
It took, there was a lot of reorganization within the NCAA. Now, the marked year where we really made it onto the national scene was 97.
Okay.
97 we got a bid and we went out to Rowan University. Rowan was there, Montclair State, Salisbury, and us. Never forget this. My team's warming up. This old man comes up with this program. Hey coach, come here. I got a question for you. I said, what's that? He goes, it says here in the program that you got 750 students. That's right, is it? I went, yeah. Actually, I said, no, actually you're right. We lied on that. He goes, 7,500, right? I went, no, actually 711. We rounded it up to 750 to make ourselves seem bigger. He goes, no way. Well, we're playing Montclair, 13,200. Rowan had 9,000, I think, something, and Salisbury had 8,700 students. And then we were 711 kids playing in a regional game. And we didn't win our 2 games, but we played well enough that people went, oh, shit.
We should go look at this. Maybe we should come. We should find out what's going on out there in Brooke County.
Yeah, exactly. And that was our first step in. Was in 1997.
Well, I think that's a good place. We're going to take a pause.
Okay.
We're going to go to send it off to Harry Chambers at Chambers General Store, because if they don't have it, you don't need it. If you came to Bethany and didn't go to Chambers, I don't know how you did it, because it's literally the only thing on Main Street. They have everything. They really do. Breakfast sandwiches, biscuits and gravy. It's that time of year, so the soups have made their return. Every day there's a daily lunch special. Like I said, if they don't have it, you don't need it, which will be on the back of the shirts that you can buy in Chambers. Although I had a conversation with him, I don't like the particular color that he picked. It reminds me of another program that I'm not very fond of.
That's all right.
But it's a beautiful shirt, and I have one. I ignore the color.
You don't wear it here. You wear it when you go.
I wear it I gave it to my dad. It was a birthday gift.
Yeah.
And there's another shirt. He has the String Capital of the World shirts, which are on their 3rd run, and that's in a neon green. And everything else that you can think of. If you're a college student and you've been in town, you know that Chambers is where you go. But I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk with special guest Coach Jan Forsty, and we will be right back.
While you're in Bethany, make sure you stop in the store for a daily lunch special, breakfast sandwiches all day. Try out the biscuits and gravy, guaranteed it'll fill you up. And also look for our new burnt orange Chambers. If we don't have it, you don't need it t-shirts, and our psychedelic green 3rd edition Bethany Mushroom Capital of the World t-shirts. Now back to you, Dingo.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. Special guest, Coach Jan Forsty. And before we get anywhere out, the reason that she's a special guest is not because she's coached every sport that you can think of, but she's also been pretty successful at them. And the sport that we're going to dive into here in the second part comes with 767 of those guys, huh?
That's the right number.
Remember, I was supposed to make you a sign, and it did not turn out the way it was supposed to.
I remember that.
I think Chuck still sends me messages from above where you couldn't make a better sign for her 7. Chuck, you gave me 2 days to figure out that I was making a sign. I was going to the game. I wasn't going to the game to make a sign.
Yeah.
So we left off in 1997, which is where you feel is the boom for the NCAA. Now it's no secret anymore. Bethany is a competitive team that is now going to get recognition. What's the next step after that year? So that's the big boom.
Yeah, that was definitely the big boom that got us recognition, got us moving, helped a lot with recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Was very, very good. We then got into a cycle of winning the PAC titles. And then it got to where we got the automatic bids. I can remember prior to getting the automatic bids, I had two students, 2 male students who were one was a GA and one was they were my assistant coaches. And I lived down in Wheeling. I said, well, come down, we'll wait for the phone call. The phone call from the NCAA of you've been selected.
Because there's no selection show at that point.
No, nothing like that. So they, I had one of those Nintendo things that the two guys were playing. It was 8 o'clock, it was 9 o'clock, it was 10 o'clock, it was 11 o'clock, it was 12 o'clock. I finally told him, I said, go home. You gotta drive back up to Bethany. I said, just go home. I think I got the call like at 2 in the morning. Congratulations,
You're in.
You're in. And that happened to me like several times. And of course, almost every time, they go, okay, you're in. And I'd go, and we're going to Muskingum.
And that's where.
Well, Donna Newberry, God rest her soul, had a tremendous program. And they were in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only an hour and 15 minutes away. So the NCAA always thinks about, they're going to try to put you as close to home to keep the cost of travel down. So we went a lot of times, the program went to Muskingum. We had one time, I don't remember what year, we actually went to Ithaca, New York to play. This was much later. I'm sorry, I can't remember the year, but I said, seriously, we have to take a bus to Ithaca? Well, they would fly you if the location on this MapQuest thing was 500 or more miles.
Ithaca was just under 500.
497 miles, and we loaded on the bus and off we went to Ithaca. Played very well. That was actually Heather Emmonsberger's, I think, senior year that we did that. You have to excuse my years all run together.
Well,
I'll see an alum and say, well, didn't you two play on the same coach? We're 5 years apart. And I went,
well, hey, I knew you were on the team.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion on that. So we started, after '97, getting a lot more bids and a lot more postseason play. Helped tremendously with recruiting. And then we get up to the late 1990s and early 2000s. And obviously 2002 was our...
the year.
The explosion year. Which we just celebrated, that team getting in the Hall of Fame this year, which I was very, very happy that finally happened.
Yes.
There was some discrepancy with the whole Hall of Fame thing for years, where teams can't get in, or individuals can't get in if they were on a team. I don't know. JC ran into this problem too, because it took a while for his team to get in. His team finally got in, and I went,
hi.
our turn.
Remember?
Yeah. So, the O2 team was special.
So let's dive into that team. I want to ask this question because I asked JC the same thing. If you had to pick a player from that team that was the player, did you have a the player, or was everybody on that team? Because it seems when they come back that it's a group. There's not really, they don't really go in. It's kind of like what softball was when I was at Bethany. The softball team doesn't go anywhere without the softball team, and when the alum come back and it's time for, it's the same. They don't.
Well, that was part of my philosophy with my team was, I had a rule. When we're in Florida, playing or something, somebody said, I want to go down the road, I want to walk down the road, and one of the places we stayed had a Dairy Queen this bridge. I want to walk down and get a Dairy Queen. I said, nope, got to be 3 of you. You always travel in groups of 3. Kids finally said to me one time, why 3? I said, well, if you're mugged, you beat them off and somebody runs like hell to the police.
Yeah.
So I always made them do 3s, so the team always did things together. And that's the same thing down at the bar. If you go down with 5 of you to the bar, you go home with 5. You never leave a teammate behind. You just don't do that. So I think that helped pull them together. It's really, really hard. Out of the 9 starters for that World Series game, 8 of them were back for the Hall of Fame, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Center fielder Destiny Clark's the only one who couldn't make it. Obviously the Twins, kicked the program. You can't succeed as much as we did without a pitcher catcher. And I'm an old catcher, so I'm gonna.
It's always
the catcher's got to be in there with the pitcher. When we went in '87, it was Jody Jackford and actually it was Destiny's sister Brooke was the other pitcher we had, but she broke her wrist right before we went into postseason. So Jody had to carry us the whole way through that. So the pitcher is always important. But when you get down to Jen Kearney at first and Dana Levere at second, and Richie at short, and Janice Masters hit 2 home runs in the regional game to send us the World Series. And you got Mo and Leslie Lopez and Destiny. I mean, those are probably 9 of the best softball players I've ever had at Bethany. And the magic of it was they all came at the same time.
It all came together at all
Now-
the stars aligned, and
Our thing was, and Mo was the one that kind of coined this. We won our 4th in a row of PAC titles. I got my 400th win then. The number 4 we were the 4th seed at Mustang, and we, kept coming up, and I think we were actually maybe the 5th seed at the World Series, but that was a rallying cry also. I'll never forget, we were at Muskingum and we're playing them in the championship game. We're in the winners bracket, so they've got to beat us twice, and it starts to rain. Umpires suspend the game. They send, I don't know where Muskingum went, I didn't care where they went. My team went to the bus, which was right down over the hill by the field, and I stayed in the dugout to keep an eye on the radar with Larry Shank, their athletic director, and inside I'm going, oh God, please let it rain, don't let it stop, don't let it stop. Deep down I didn't care how we got there, what the excitement of being there. I mean, if we get there by rain, I don't care. Larry goes, it looks like it's going to let up here, and I'm going, I don't know, it doesn't look like that.
Well, it looked good to me.
It doesn't look good, Larry, it doesn't look good. I looked over that bus, and the bus was moving. The kids were on the bus, singing, cheering, obviously standing up, probably holding on the side of the bus, rocking the thing back and forth. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going down there.
Yeah, I'm not going near
I'm
that.
not going near that bus. They called the teams in, to continue play, and the team comes up and we start throwing and stuff. And I said, man, I wish it would have rained like crazy because we'd get to go there because we're in the winners bracket. And one of my team members, and it might have been Rock, I don't know if it was her or not. Hey, coach, we got this. Relax. Team went out and beat them. And I can remember seeing Donna Newberry screaming at her team after the game. I don't understand why you guys can't hit that drop curve. That's all she kept throwing, the drop curve. Why didn't you hit it? Rachel walks by past me and goes, that's because I was throwing a screwball. So that was just, a tremendous experience to fly up to Minnesota and go over to Wisconsin, Eau Claire, to play there. And the funny thing with the rain that we had hoped so far for, Ithaca up in New York was hosting their region, and they got drowned. Their field was put underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Their field sat with a very high hill, and it just came down. Mud came down. It was totally unplayable. So they were the first seed, and they got to go. So Ithaca goes. That's our first round opponent at Nationals, and Ithaca never won a game at the World Series. They went there a lot.
They went, but they just
Didn't win. I don't want to say ever, maybe just didn't win a lot of games. So we draw them first. They didn't play a region, so they've been off for a long time. So Rachel and Amy and I talked about this. One bad pitch on a 3-1 count that just didn't get outside far enough. Ithaca's All-American catcher hit a home run to right center field, and we lost 1-0. The irony of it was Ithaca went on and won the national championship that year. So it's kind of like, I'm happy. The coach is a really good friend of mine, Deb Pelosi. I said, well, I'm really happy we could help you. Matter of fact, she got inducted into the NFCA Hall of Fame, Softball Hall of Fame, and I said, I'm happy I could help you get there by beating us. But,
so, and that the PAC title trend continues, and it was in 4-year spurts, wasn't it? There was it was a weird, there'd be a layoff year where you made it but didn't win it, and then you go back on the run for.
Yeah,
because I always remember the helmets if you look at the number.
We got those.
I know. They should have been delivered.
They're in the showcase up in Hummel.
Now, we'll fast forward again. So you had there's a couple players specifically that I want to talk about, and a little bit of we'll get to the end of Maria Ballon first and foremost, Olympian for handball.
Mm-hmm. Team handball.
What did she provide as an athlete? She's a very quiet person. Anybody that knows Maria knows that she's very, everything is same smile, and then you got Katie who's like, hey, how are you? And Maria's just like, yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Nice to see you.
One of my recruiting strategies during that was sending personal letters to kids from a recruiting service that I got. I remember I sent her a letter, I don't remember specifically, but I sent her a letter and invited them down to watch us play a fall game, kind of a recruiting day. This is early on before that was the thing. What do they call them?
Green and white day? Or
No, what do they call them? Anyway.
It's official visit now.
Yeah, well, so her mom came down. I don't remember if Katie was there or not, and they're sitting in the bleachers, and it was like, oh, I'm really happy that you're here. And I spent a lot of time. I mean, that was part of my recruiting thing. So I spent a lot of time getting to know kids,
Mhm.
on a very personal level. And they left after that game, and she said, I'm coming. So, sometimes you get players, you don't know how good they are. You can't possibly go see every recruit, okay? So Maria was one of those. So I can remember we went up to Akron to play our fall game, and it's really hard to make a batting lineup when you don't know anybody. You see him hitting practice and stuff, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So I think Maria at that time we put her in the number 2 spot or something like that. Her first at bat was a line drive double to right center field, and I can't remember who my assistant coach was. It might have been Kristen McGaughy. I turned and went, ooh.
Got one.
We went, ooh, this is a good one. And she became a third-team All-American for us. But, her quiet presence, I think, helped a lot in a lot of ways because she wasn't a leader by voice.
She wasn't rah-rah. She
Oh,
just
no.
went out and played.
She just did what she was supposed to do, and she worked out real hard, and, she led by example and did a very nice job of it, too.
So the other player, and this will lead into the 700th win, and then she was a pretty big factor towards the end of the time as softball coach. So there was a rumor, and I had her on. I had a couple other players that she is related to and friends with from the same area. The rumor was that Chuck found a diamond in the rough at McGuffey. I will tell you, Cassie's answer was she didn't know who Chuck was. Never met Chuck. Never met Chuck. Ashley Narrigan also never met Chuck.
Yeah.
And Sammy, never met Chuck. So guessing that Chuck did not find the diamond in the rough there in McGuffey. What got Cassie here?
I saw, and I could be wrong on this, I think Chartreuse Houston played McGuffey, and I think Kirsten Cornwell, pitcher for me from Chart Houston, was playing in that game, or I was going to recruit us. I think I went up because of that.
That's the story because Cassie said that the girl that was pitching against
Yes,
her
that's who I went to see.
is who you were there for originally, and that's not who ended up. It kind of worked out in that Cassie ends up here.
Yeah. Because then I saw her, and then I saw Sammy also. It was kind of a roundabout way, and we've done very well with local kids.
I noticed that it's always. I mean, you had Sam Bingley who comes in with the Canadian as J.C. Cunningham would say, the Canadian pipeline lives strong here in Bethany.
Yes, it did.
But I notice a lot of the players are from local West Virginia, local Ohio, local PA. Was that because you are a Western Pennsylvania person, and that was where you, or just that's kind of how it fell?
I think there was a trend midway through my coaching career where kids wanted to stay closer to home. I think that's really what spurred a lot of that on. Because if you look at my O2 team, Lopez was local, Clark was New Jersey, Mo was Pittsburgh, Janice was Lansing, Ohio, Witchy's Pittsburgh, Dana's Pittsburgh, Kearney's New Jersey, and then the twins were Pittsburgh. So I had back when we had to share our GAs,
Okay.
Rick Rich, can't think of his last name, was a football guy that came to help me, who established a pipeline, JC Star, with New Jersey, that I got 2 or 3 players from that were good, that helped us out.
Well, and the reason I brought Cassie up is you jogged my memory of one pitch. It's one pitch for 2002. It's one pitch for, and I think I get this year wrong every time, but I want to say it's is it 14? The year that Mimi Salzer, or whatever her name was, from Thomas More, got the rise ball that she put out.
Yeah, it could have been.
And then, so you lose the PAC title that year, 1-0. A week later, and I only remember this because I was covering the games, a week later we're hosting ECACs, and I think it's the same pitch, a girl from Penn State, straight out the left, I mean, and it was the only pitch, and, you know, when you talk to Cassie, she does that, those pitches, they didn't happen. And I guess the sign of a good pitcher, right,
Yeah.
is that they didn't happen. You didn't give those up. It was just another hit, which is went a little far. What is the biggest difference you've seen between when you first started coaching and your players now?
That's a tough one. When I decided not to coach anymore after 31 years, it wasn't because of the kids. Somebody once told me that, you know, teachers say, "Oh, kids have changed." No, kids haven't changed. We've changed. Kids are still kids.
Yeah.
But it was the process in the organization that drove me out. I got to where I hated to go recruiting. Loved kids when they got here.
But just didn't want
I
to.
got tired of, you know, driving around. I'd go out to Delaware. Emily Jones, got her out there. Got TJ out there. You drive out. You spend a weekend in a hotel eating at God knows where, and you can talk to a kid and talk to a kid. They love you. They like the program. Yes, I'm coming. I'm majoring in this. Da, 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 da. D2 walks around and says, "Give you $2,000 to come to Slippery Rock and play." Boom, they're gone.
Now, is that something that you could see changing at the Division III level? That money is going to trickle down to Division III athletes at some point in the form
Well,
of
they're not getting money for athletics.
that? So you don't think that will ever change
Oh, no.
at the Division III level?
No,
It will not.
No.
Okay.
Division III will always be non-scholarship, athletic scholarship. Which is funny because I golfed with a woman on Tuesday. She said, "My son went up to Bethany. He got a scholarship to play football."
No, it didn't.
And I go, "No, he didn't." "Well, he got money." I said, "To be a student and go there, but
Yeah.
not play football."
We don't give those.
Yeah. So one of the things you said about one pitch, we beat Thomas More one year. Dana Boris was the pitcher. We had a runner at third, maybe second and third, 2 outs, bottom of the seventh. We were home team. One pitch, Butler was up. Chelsea Butler was up. She was my number 2. And they called timeout. And, well, Dana had been throwing drop balls and roll outside all day.
That was where she was going.
Yeah, and we had trouble hitting it. And Chelsea went up to me. She says, "I don't care what she throws. I'm hitting the first pitch." I said,
Okay.
well, what it did is it takes the pitcher out of it. She's going to throw a pitch. You're going to hit it no matter what.
There's no cat and mouse at that point.
There's
It's
no, should I, now I'm a 2-1 counter, I'm a 1-2 count, and I'm
just go.
boom.
And what happened to that? Do you remember the?
Yeah, it was a base hit to right field, we won. That was a
So,
sweet win.
well, the reason I brought up Sam Binkley and Cassie, I just realized I didn't finish that thought, is that, you know, unfortunately Cassie's career, and she talked about how all the way up until the end, she believed that she was coming back for that season. While that's going on, Sam Binkley comes in and does a hell of a job to get you guys to the tournament. I believe, I don't know how that.
Cassie, you're talking when she blew her knee out,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Was the last out of the PA's, of the game we had to win
To get in.
to go to Thomas More to play in the PAC tournament. Fly ball to left field, everybody going, "Yay!" Turn around, Cassie's laying on the ground. It was like,
And it was just a misstep, is what she said. It's just when her foot hit the ground, she.
pitchers, when they drag their foot, create a hole. She had created a big enough hole that if she released the pitch, she didn't square up on her follow through. She stepped in that hole as she turned to look at the ball in left field. ACL. Go down.
Now, when you found out that it was the ACL, you knew that was.
She was done. She was done for the rest of the year. Well, she was done,
Yeah,
which was just the PAC tournament. You know.
and that was unfortunate because that ends her career. So you said that your last year would have been 19? 18? 19.
Yeah, 3 years ago, so
18.
18.
You've now retired from teaching as well.
Yeah.
So what is retirement like? What is retirement life like for Coach Forsty?
I love it.
When you're golfing, when you're traveling.
Yeah. I'm a type of person that I think very, very hard before I do things. My dad said cogitate. I cogitate things in my head, and when I make a decision, it's 100% decision. And when I decided to leave softball, I knew that it was time.
Yeah.
Because I found in teaching, even in high school, well, if you say, well, I can't leave because this person,
It's always
there's
gonna-
always a this person, and at times you just need to. And that was the year that I'll tell you, one of the most moving experiences that I had was at the PAC tournament in Thomas More. Talk about a class act program. We lost our first game. We lost our second game. I knew it was done at that point. And so, the team goes through the line, high five, high five, high five. I'm at the end, as always, high five. My team doubled back,
And high-fived you.
hugged me, everyone, and then when I got done, tears. Thomas Moore's athletic director was a really good guy. We had a good relationship, and the 4 coaches are standing out the pitching mound. They presented me with an award. Thank you for all the work that you've done for softball.
Well,
Not Bethany, just
and you and Thomas More, the programs had battles for years. I mean,
but a lot of respect. There was a lot of respect there, and
So-
that's what it's all about.
I'm going to ask you. So I need you to recruit. There's 2 questions.
Uh-huh.
Coach at the Division III level. Why Division III?
Which couples in with why Bethany.
It does.
Okay. I got to do everything. I didn't know if I wanted to be just a coach, or just a teacher, or just an AD.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do all of it here. I got to be assistant, associate, and an AD. I got to be an assistant professor, associate, instructor, assistant professor, associate professor, full professor,
And chair.
and chair, and coach more than one sport, but coach, the one that I love the most. So, could I have gone on to do just one? Tell you what, I know you don't know this because I didn't tell very many people. So, I interviewed for a teaching professorship at Silver Oak.
Really?
Yeah, 90s, early 90s, mid 90s. Made it to the final 3 candidates. Was brought to campus. I later found out I was probably the token female, but that's all right.
Good.
The guy they ended up hiring was a friend of the chair of the sport management department, college buddies.
Yeah.
It's like,
What can you do?
well, I got a free night hotel up in Slippery Rock, which was kind of nice. I always never got to stay at that Apple Butter Inn or whatever, so I got to do that. But if I was offered that position, I probably would have taken it because my family all lived there.
And that's going back to your alma mater. It's
Sure.
going back to
Oh,
it's being
yeah.
home. It's a whole different
Yeah.
it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking.
Looking back on it, thank
That's-
God I didn't get it. Thank Alan Jackson. Thank God for unanswered prayers.
And then I got to hear it one time, and I think everybody else out there needs to hear it one time. What is you're recruiting me to come to Bethany? How? What is the selling point for
Well,
Bethany
what
College?
I sell, small classes, individual relationship with professors. Sometimes you'll have cookies and hot chocolate on a winter night at a professor's house. I think the English department does that a lot.
Yes.
I sell it to the parents. I'm here. I'm their second mom
Mm-hmm.
or grandmother, depending on what year it was. And I'll take care of them. I can remember I told Emily Jump's mom, oh God, she visited like 3 times her junior year and probably 6 times her senior. I told her to stop coming because driving from Delaware to here, I think she's going to get tired and say that.
That's a long. Yeah. that's a
I'm
long
not going
time.
to do this. I'm not going to do this anymore. But I told her mom, Emily's going to come out here. She's going to grow up into be a very, very fine woman, and I'm happy to be able to be here to help her develop into the woman that I know that she's going to be, not just from an academic standpoint, but for the world. Her mom wrote me a letter when Emily graduated. She said, "You kept your promise. My Emily has grown into a wonderful woman, and thank you for all the guidance, and thank you for all the help that you've given her, and will always give her." I said, "She's in my family, my softball family. She's always a part of my family. Whether a kid plays 1 year or, well, they can only play four. Your husband
Well, the
6
COVID year,
years.
don't forget, the COVID
Well, I
year,
didn't-
you
I
didn't get
didn't
what I'm
do
saying.
that.
Now there's a whole new ball game of
Yeah.
eligibility.
But I will be with your daughter, every step of the way, every step of the way. So I said, softball's one thing, but she's going to develop other characteristics by being on a team and being a leader and devoting that kind of stuff. I said, that's what I like about coaching. I can't throw a ball underhand to save my life. I'm going to teach somebody to pitch. But
and you being a catcher, you know the other aspects
I
of
know
it.
what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But matter of fact, when I taught high school, I had to get somebody else to pitch underhand to my phys ed classes because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But that letter from Emily's mom meant a lot to me because that's what I tried. That's what I tried to sell. I sell Bethany. I sell the quality education, but a lot of ways I have to sell myself because. And I always tell them, I'm probably going to be here to see you graduate. Now, I had to stop saying that a few years ago, but I did say to them I would be here because I stopped coaching after 31, but I taught for 3 more years. So I was still here for them, and I had the kids come into my office, even when I wasn't coaching, just to talk. And that's what it's about. That's what athletics is about, because the games will be done. I mean, you see it with the pros all the time. How they have to transcend themselves from being known just as an athlete to
whatever their next venture in their life is going to be.
As I said with my my tryout at Slippery Rock, I was tied to the identity of being a basketball player, and it was taken from me, not by my choice, by somebody else's. How do I transform myself to do what I want to do? And I thought that I transformed myself into being a very, very good physical educator.
Well, Coach, I will say you've been a hell of a mentor towards me, even when I was slightly difficult and wasn't on the right track. And it was always nice to come in on a Tuesday or a Thursday, early on into the bar, before anybody else showed up, and I might not have even known that I was in trouble. Coach would pick her head up from her burger and her beer, look over at me, and go, "When I'm done, we're going to talk." And the head went back down and back to eating, and it's one of those, I know multiple people that are even in school currently that your name comes up daily. I mean, it's just, you have touched a lot of people here because, and I'm not afraid to say it, there's not many people left that embody what Bethany really is, and you embody the mind, the spirit, and I think what the hope was from our founder. I think that you're just, there's something about you, Coach. There's something about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you for stopping by and going over the history that was, and wish you the most success in your new venture as retired.
I love retirement. I get up and I have 2 cups of coffee. I don't take a shower till 9, and sometimes I do things, sometimes I don't.
You have the freedom to do it.
And the RV that was my retirement present to myself. We took 5 trips this year, and we're going to do a big one in the spring. We're going to go all the way up to, I think, Sequoia out in California. And the whole thing of buying an RV as opposed to renting is we don't have to be back at any time.
No.
So we can lollygag and take our time and see how it goes. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, this has been Coach Forsty. For those of you that don't remember, it's softball, volleyball, field hockey, soccer, tennis. I always leave tennis off of that, and I gotta catch it. Watch the episode. You're not going to be disappointed. Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. You can catch us on YouTube, You can find us on Twitter. It's at DingoTalk. You can find us on Instagram. It's at Dingo_talk. You can find us on TikTok. Don't go to the TikTok yet. I'm still figuring that whole thing out. But make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's probably right here in the middle of the screen. And we'll see you next Thursday, Chuckleheads.
You wanna know by now.